This is siguro one of the stories that is not really well known, no? It's not in our history books. It's a very heartwarming story of how really the Filipinos are welcoming. We are a welcoming people.
Taong 1917, sumiklap ang matindi at malawakang revolusyon sa bansang Russia nang mabigong tugunan ang problema sa gutom at kahirapan sa ilalim ng kapangyarihan ng Emperor na si Tsar Nicholas II. Sa pangunguna ni Vladimir Lenin ng radical socialist na Bolsheviks, napabagsak ang monarkiya ng bansa at winakasan ang mahigit 3 siglong pamumuno ng Romanov dynasty.
The Bolsheviks defeated the Imperial Army. And then they assassinated or murdered the Tsar and his family.
Matapos mapabagsak ang provisional government ng bansang Russia, itinatag sa bansang ito ang kauna-unahang communist state sa mundo.
White Russians was a term used to designate all the Russians who were opposed to the Bolshevik Revolution spearheaded by Lenin.
The White Army, the people who were loyal to the Tsar, or people who were anti-communist, or the Whites, had to flee because they were afraid of persecution or death, or to be sent to labor camps. So silang mga White or mga anti-communist fled to many other places. Majority of them went to China because China is very close to Russia.
Subalit hindi rin nagtagal sa China ang lumikas na White Russians doon dahil ito ay naging komunistang bansa sa ilalim ng pamumuno ng Pangulo nitong si Mao Zedong.
Shanghai at the time was labeled as a symbol of Western capitalist decadence. And culturally speaking, Mao Zedong was quite keen to sort of eradicate this inheritance from the past. In that course, at the eve of the entry of the Mao Zedong Red Army into Shanghai, these people were not going to be able to live peacefully under this regime.
They had to flee again because they were afraid to be sent back to Russia so they didn't want to go back to Russia, so they had to escape again.
Sa paglisan ng White Russians mula sa kanilang bansa, nakatuon at tumutulong sa kanila ang International Refugee Organization o IRO.
So the IRO helped out these Russians to look for a place to escape to. So nagsulat sila sa maraming free countries. Sulat sila sa Australia, New Zealand, other countries, lahat ng mga bansang malalaya.
Sa lahat ng malalayang bansang binigyan ng mga pakiusap at panawagan ng International Refugee Organization na kupkupin ang libo-libong White Russians, tanging isang bansa lamang ang tumugon sa mga ito.
It was only the Philippines in December of 1948, through President Elpidio Quirino, who said, yes, okay, we'll accept 6,000 refugees to come to the Philippines.
Sa mga panahong nagpasya ang pamahalaan ni Pangulong Elpidio Quirino na bigyan ng pansamantalang tahanan ang White Russians, nagsisimula palang bumangon ang Pilipinas noon dahil sa sinapit nito mula sa ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig.
Nonetheless, President Quirino put an act on the table and said, we Philippines will accept these people.
And he said, okay, come in, and then we'll put you in this old naval base in the Pacific area.
At ang tinutukoy na dating naval base ng mga Amerikano, matatagpuan sa bayan ng Giwan sa lalawigan ng Eastern Samar. Ito ay ang isla ng Tubabao.
6,000 refugees were settled in Tubabao Island, and it was an episode which we call the Tiempo Ruso locally. So here in Giwan, we call it Tiempo Ruso, or the time of the Russians. So that's from 1949 to 1953.
Well, it shows again how hospitable Eastern Samarinos are.
Dito na nagsimula ang malaking papel na ginampanan ng isla ng Tubabao sa kasaysayan ng bansa at ng buong mundo. Ngunit dahil iilan lamang ang nakakaalam nito, at ang naging buhay ng tinatawag na White Russians sa islang ito sa bayan ng Giwan.
So naging mayor ako sa internet. On Tubabao Island, I posted that I am the mayor of Giwan. I would like to get in touch with the White Russians who were in Tubabao Island. I didn't even know when. In less than 24 hours, ang daming pumasok. Ang daming pumasok. We were there in Giwan. I was only 9 years old, blah, blah, blah. And it all started there.
Dahil na rin sa pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga nabubuhay pang White Russians at sa kanilang mga kamag-anak sa Australia, Amerika at iba pang panig ng mundo, nabuo ang documentary film na Tubabao Odyssey, Refugee in the Philippines.
When you think about it, they lived in Russia and then they moved to China and they had already lived there for 25 years or more. And then they had to be uprooted again. And here they were living on an island where they didn't know, is this going to be the rest of our life or what's going to be the next step?
They were all Russian speaking, they were culturally Russian, but my goodness, we had Ukrainians, we had Estonians, we had Jews, we had Gypsies.
Tartar from Crimea, Latvians,
There were also some Armenians and Georgians.
Czech, Poles, Hungarians.
We even had one family of Hindus.
Hindi nagtagal, bumuo at nagkaroon na ng sariling pamayanan ang libo-libong White Russians sa isla ng Tubabao.
I would say it was very well organized because everybody had a job over there.
Most of the stuff was taken care of by our own people. Engineers who rigged up a couple of motors and provided lighting for the entire camp.
My father became a policeman, and all the teenagers, like my age, 15, we had assignment to take care of small children.
My uncle, he was advanced engineering group that came to Tubabao in January, and they built a dam for our water supply.
My dad was assigned to go on the water truck. There were about 3 or 4 guys. They would go wherever it was that they got the water, and then they bring it back and they deliver it to the kitchen, you know, that kind of thing. So we couldn't really waste a lot of water.
Almost all the ladies who were capable worked in the kitchen, which was up on the hill, so you would see these ladies going up. So they had actual shifts when they had to work.
But every 10 days or every 2 weeks, we had to go out there and prepare meals for the district. You know, we had about 14 districts, I lived in the 3rd. We set up our own little city of 4,000 people. We had a hospital with nurses and doctors.
A church was constructed out near the oval, far out from camp, which was the main sabor, or cathedral. There were other churches there as well. One was in a tent, I recall, was a Baptist. There were several denominations, but the main one was the Russian Orthodox. They would go to church every Sunday. Some people would go to church every day. The people were very religious, yes.
And then they opened up a school there. So all the children went there and all the best teachers, taught us.
There was an Ira school and there was a Russian school. There was an orphanage that came with the Russians.
One of the significance of Tubabao Island, the Tubabao Island episode, or the sojourn of the White Russians to Tubabao, is that there was an exchange of culture. Some of the artists, musicians, dancers who trained very well in Moscow Conservatory of Music and Art taught piano lessons, they taught ballet, they taught even singing and even painting to the children of the rich children of Giwan, received art lessons, music lessons from the refugees.
Nasa Katlong Baitang ako ng babang paaralan nang mag-aral ako ng piano kay Professor Walter, isang Russian refugee. Bawat leksyon, 1 oras, 5 piso ang bayad sa kanya.
My piano teacher, when I was very young, was taught by a Tubabao refugee, but I didn't know that. And probably, perhaps, many of my generation didn't know that their teachers in art or music were taught by refugees.
I enjoyed the stage very much, so I was always on stage, either dancing or acting or something.
We had movies twice a week, almost every week. We had our own dance band and dances and all that. We could go and swim in the ocean every day, and they actually set up some facilities out there where you could swim. It was like a wooden raft. You could just sit out there in the middle and jump in the water.
You have within the community all the acts which characterize a human society. There were some poets, there were some intellectuals, there were some manual laborers. They were all kind of walk of life. Some of them were falling sick, some were falling in love.
Minsan na ring dumalaw ang nooy pinuno ng bansa na si Pangulong Elpidio Quirino.
President Elpidio Quirino came to the camp and, the band met him with nice music.
It was President Quirino and according to them, his daughter.
I remember that we had an artist over there that made like a thank you memorial with all the signatures of different group people as a thank you for him. And the president decided to take down the fences, and that was meaning that you're not in the camp.
Minsan na ring tinangkang ilipat ang White Russians mula sa Tubabao Island papuntang Tacloban City. Subalit ibinalik din sila sa isla. Sa kabila nito, ginagawan pa rin ang paraan upang magkaroon na ng permanenteng tahanan ang mga refugee.
The act that President Quirino proposed through an agreement with the International Refugee Organization said, look, we can accept them. In exchange, IRO, please help us to find a durable solution to the plight of these refugees.
Naisulong naman ang panawagang ito ni Pangulong Quirino sa pamamagitan ng International Refugee Organization, katuwang ang mga bansang katulad ng France, Belgium, Canada, Argentina, Paraguay, Australia at Estados Unidos. Subalit,
the first difficulty was the fact that the major resettlement instrument which existed within the arsenal of law in the United States, the Displaced Person Act, was outdated. For instance, prohibited persons who came from countries who were deemed as unfriendly to the United States to be resettled. So, White Russians were technically, from a nationality point of view, were coming from Russia. So therefore, at the beginning, they were not eligible for resettlement.
Sa pagkakataong ito, gumawa ng paraan ang kilalang religious leader na tumira sa isla ng Tubabao sa loob ng 3 buwan na si St. John of Shanghai.
St. John, he actually left Tubabao, went to America, and he prayed on the steps of Congress.
And literally sat on the steps till they would hear him.
Hindi nagtagal, napansin din ang panawagan ni St. John na payagang manirahan ang White Russians sa Amerika.
Senator Nolan arrived at the camp in November of 1949 and he gave promises that people can actually enter the United States of America through the Displaced Persons Bill.
1 taon ang nakalipas, ipinasa ang kinailangang pagbabago sa Displaced Persons Bill at taong 1951, tinupad ni Senator Nolan ang kanilang pangako at dito na nagsimulang maglayag ang White Russians lula ng SS Marine Jumper patungo sa kanilang permanenteng tahanan sa Estados Unidos at sa ibang mga bansa.
Towards the end, some of them migrated to South America, including Argentina, Paraguay,
Santo Domingo, but also Germany, Belgium. France had the particularity towards the end to say all the woman-headed household with patients who were suffering from tuberculosis would be accepted by France.
and the able-bodied men went to.
We disembarked in Sydney whilst others continued on to Uruguay and so on, South America.
We're glad we were leaving and finally going someplace where we're going to settle down. But on the other hand, we didn't know when are we going to meet again, Of course, I missed it.
Pitumpung taon na ang nakalilipas, buhay na buhay pa rin ang alaala ng White Russians sa mga naninirahan sa isla ng Tubabao ngayon.
May tindahan ng akong mga kag-anak sa bukid. Inatnan ng aga o tugabi. Hanggatod na kami ng kag-anak dito kami may tindahan na era. Oo, mga Russian. Siya namamalit ng mga Russian.
Yung mga Russian nga ang ano nila itong dila nga brokit nga haluag nga pinag-anuhan ng manok, di ba? Nakakita ko yan ba ano? international itbida nira.
Sa kasalukuyan, ang isla ng Tubabao ay binubuo ng 5 barangay: Kamparang, San Pedro, Trinidad, San Juan at San Antonio. Ang barangay Kamparang ang pinakasentro ng isla.
Mayroong simbahan, barangay hall, daycare center, health station, mayroong elementary school, mayroong national high school, mayroon din covered court na naglalaroan. May sementeryo din.
Sa mismong barangay Kamparang din nanirahan ang White Russians at ang krus na ito kung saan nakatayo ang isang simbahan noon ang tanging konkretong saksi sa naging buhay ng mga refugee na kinalinga ng isla ng Tubabao.
Even if they were young at that time, they understood what it meant for someone like President Quino to save their lives. So they tell it to their children and their children's children. And even to this day, they're very, very grateful.
These Russians in Australia, they want to meet one of the ears of Refugee Quirino because they want to say thank you. Because all these years they've been waiting for people who will look for them. Because I was the first one who looked for them. Walang iba. Kaya they were crying because for so many years, here, may dumating dito na taga-Giwan na naghahanap sa amin.
The whole Russian community on Tubabao owes tremendous thanks to President Quirino.
Well, I'd like to thank him for letting us spend time in the Philippines.
Thank you for them to give us a place to stay.
I'm grateful for the experience. I'm grateful to the Philippine people. And there's lots of good things and lots of bad things, but we persevered.
At bilang pag-alala sa pagiging malaking bahagi ng isla ng Tubabao sa kasaysayan, itinayo ang marker na ito na sumisimbolo sa naging ugnayan sa pagitan ng White Russians at mga Pilipino. Taong 2019, ginunita ng lokal na pamahalaan ng Giwan ang ika-70 anibersaryo ng ugnayang ito.
The ties between the Russians and Filipinos forged during their stay in the Philippines.
Dear Tubabaoans, thank you so much once again for your kindness. Believe me please, for us Russians, it's natural to be grateful.
The significance of us accepting them, the Philippines accepting the refugees coming from China. First, it was the first international humanitarian assistance that the Philippines gave as a new republic. So that's the first. We have collaborated with the United Nations formally to set up a refugee camp, which I suppose became a learning lesson for the next assistance we gave to other waves of refugees.
We were just recovering from war and tinanggap natin yung 6,500 White Russians to the Philippines. Isn't that napakagandang gesture of friendship, gesture of kindness and generosity?
Their stay there was very brief, but still, we accommodated them, we embraced them because they were being persecuted at the time.
However we see it, there are no victors in war, only victims. And the newly established republic in the Far East opened its arms and gave refuge to more than 6,000 victims fleeing war and chaos. Underneath the rubbles and ravages of hopelessness and homelessness, there unearthed a gesture of kindness and compassion by the Filipinos known as the heart of war.
Landmarks including the Landing of Magellan in Humonhon, the refugee camp in Tubabao, the World War II site in Caloocan Island. So all of these things add to the beauty and the attractiveness of Giwan.
Higit pa sa likas na yaman at kasaganahan ng mga islang ito ng Humonhon, Caloocan at Tubabao sa bayan ng Giwan, lalawigan ng Eastern Samar, ay ang magagandang pangyayaring tumatak sa kasaysayan at ang naipakita at naipadamang kabutihan sa sanlibutan. True enough, it's history retold, humanity restored.
Magandang Gabi Pilipinas.